Have you ever stopped to think about what literally holds our modern world together? I mean, not figuratively, but the actual physical connections. Building our cities, our cars, all that infrastructure. Today, we're going to deep dive into a market that is, well, in many ways, it's the backbone of so much industrial activity, but it rarely makes headlines.
Exactly. We're talking about the global filler metals market. Now, that might sound incredibly niche, maybe even a bit dry. But as we unpack the latest data from cognitive market research, you'll see just how significant its impact really is
Hmm.
and why it's experiencing such impressive, fundamental growth.
Yeah, and our mission for this deep dive is pretty straightforward. We want to cut through all that data, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights for you, and offer a clear, concise, and maybe even surprising look at where this crucial market stands right now and where it's headed by, 2033. Think of it as your shortcut to being well informed on a global industrial powerhouse you probably never even considered before. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Filler metals. For anyone maybe less familiar, we're essentially talking about the material that gets added during welding or brazing, right? To create that strong, durable joint. It's like the glue for countless industries.
That's a good way to put it, the industrial glue. And the global market for this glue was valued at a pretty substantial figure already back in 2021, around $2.99 billion.
Almost 3 billion. Okay. And here's where it gets really interesting, right? The growth projection. It's projected to hit around $3.69 billion by 2025. So pretty soon. And ultimately climbing to, get this, a whopping $5.63 billion by 2033.
Yeah, that's a big jump. And it represents a really consistent compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 5.41%. Solid growth.
5.4%.
Right.
So what's behind that? Why such steady expansion?
Well, that's the fascinating part, understanding the why. This growth, it isn't just arbitrary. It's being fueled by some really fundamental drivers reshaping global industry. We're seeing robust industrial development pretty much worldwide, a surge in, let's say, complex welding activities across both construction and automotive sectors. Those are huge.
Hmm.
And then there's just this overarching demand for strong, reliable joining solutions in manufacturing, infrastructure, everywhere, really. But it's not just about general growth either. The key insight here is how the market's being pushed by more specialized high-tech demands.
Oh, like what?
Well, think about the push towards lighter, stronger materials, electric vehicles, for instance, or advanced aerospace projects. These often require totally new types of filler metals, stuff that can bond these novel alloys effectively. So that creates a whole specialized high-value demand segment within the market.
Right, so it's evolving too, not just growing bigger, but getting more sophisticated.
Exactly. Which raises an important question, doesn't it? Where is this growth actually most pronounced geographically? Who's leading the charge?
Good question. So what does this all mean for specific regions then? The source material gives us a pretty clear breakdown on this. And yeah, one area really stands out as the global leader in this expansion.
Yeah, if we look at the global picture, Asia-Pacific has really been leading the charge, no question. This region saw its market nearly double. It went from just under $1 billion in 2021 to a projected $2.08 billion by 2033.
Wow, more than double. What's driving that massive jump in Asia Pacific?
Well, several key countries. China has been a huge engine. They're projecting to more than double their market size to over $760 million. India, too, showed really remarkable growth, expected to reach over $370 million. And we also see significant expansion in Japan, Australia, plus other nations like Singapore, Southeast Asia generally, Taiwan. They're all registering steady increases. It's all supported by the region's just incredibly strong manufacturing momentum and, those massive infrastructure projects you hear about.
That's an incredible trajectory for Asia Pacific. Really cements its role as a global industrial powerhouse, doesn't it? But how does that compare to, say, the more mature industrial landscapes, like in the West? Let's look closer to home for many of us. North America.
North America also shows strong performance, growing from about $900 million back in 2021 to an anticipated $1.62 billion by 2033. So not doubling like APAC, but still very strong growth.
Okay, still significant. And within North America, the U.S. is the biggest player, I assume.
Yes, the United States remains the largest contributor in the region by far, projecting growth from around $650 million to over $1.15 billion. But Canada and Mexico also contribute significantly. Their markets are pretty much on track to nearly double over that same period as well.
Yeah.
Around $138 million to nearly $260 million for Canada and $112 million to over $204 million for Mexico.
Got it. So strong growth across North America. What about Europe?
Europe's interesting too. Across the continent, the filler metals market showed really consistent and substantial growth, rising from roughly $577 million in 2021 to an estimated $1.13 billion by 2033. Again, close to doubling.
Similar growth pattern then. Which countries stand out there?
Well, major industrial economies, as you'd expect. Germany's a significant player. They're set to double their market to over $260 million. The UK, France, Italy, they're also showing strong contributions. It really reflects a broad industrial demand, not just isolated pockets of growth. And even countries like Russia and Spain are seeing significant increases. Russia going from about $71 million to nearly $140 million. Spain from roughly $48 million to over $100 million. It just underscores that widespread need for robust joining solutions across the whole continent. Even smaller industrial nations showed notable expansion.
Right. So we've covered the big three. Asia-Pacific leading, followed by strong growth in North America and Europe. But beyond these established industrial giants, what else does the data tell us? Let's turn our attention maybe to the developing industrial landscapes, other continents.
Sure. Let's look at Africa first. The filler metals market there is expanding steadily, growing from about $206 million in 2021 to a projected $346 million by 2033. South Africa is leading this growth, followed pretty closely by Nigeria, and the rest of the continent is also seeing increases. It seems driven by expanding infrastructure and growing manufacturing sectors as these economies mature.
Okay, steady growth in Africa. How about the Middle East? Lots of construction there.
Yeah, the Middle East also shows positive trends. Definitely. Revenues there are projected to grow from about $152 million to over $235 million in 2033.
Yeah.
Key markets are Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE. And it seems fueled, like you said, by those ambitious construction projects, but also industrial diversification efforts. Egypt and Qatar also contribute.
Makes sense. And finally, South America.
South America, the market rose from around $158 million in 2021 to a projected $210 million, roughly, by 2033. Now, the growth here is maybe a bit more moderate compared to, say, Asia-Pacific, but it's still a positive trajectory. Brazil and Argentina are the primary drivers, and you also see contributions from countries like Colombia, Peru, and Chile adding to that regional growth.
So it's really clear then, this market isn't just concentrated in a few spots. It's genuinely a global phenomenon, driven by these fundamental, almost universal industrial needs. From the established hubs to the emerging economies, that demand for strong joining solutions seems consistent. And it's growing, which really indicates massive underlying investment in, well, physical infrastructure all around the world.
Exactly. If you step back and look at the big picture, what we've seen here is a market that, yeah, maybe it's not flashy, doesn't grab headlines, but it's incredibly vital. And it's consistently growing across every major global region. These projections for filler metals, they're driven by everything from new electric vehicle factories to towering skyscrapers, and just the ongoing need for robust construction and manufacturing. It really underscores its foundational importance in the global economy.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? Well, maybe next time you see a new building going up or just a car on the road or even look at some manufactured good, you might just have a deeper appreciation for those sort of invisible components, the ones that literally hold it all together. This deep dive into filler metals, it kind of reminds us that sometimes the most crucial elements aren't the ones making noise, but the quiet, essential ones that form the very fabric of our modern world. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other hidden industrial powerhouses are out there quietly shaping things.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a shortcut to understand a really crucial, but maybe often overlooked part of global industry. That's the global filler metals market. You've sent us some compelling sources, and our mission really is to pull out the key insights. What's driving it, what's holding it back, and what's trending in this essential sector. It's way more interconnected than you might think at first glance.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's really fascinating here is how filler metals, they're right at the core of industrial joining solutions, right? How they kind of mirror these broader economic and technological shifts perfectly. We're going to explore why this, well, seemingly niche market is actually fundamental to everything from infrastructure, basic stuff, right up to cutting-edge manufacturing.
Okay, let's unpack that then. When we talk about what's really powering global industry, what are the core engines driving demand specifically for filler metals? Our sources point to some pretty powerful forces.
Yeah, well, one of the primary drivers and maybe one people don't always think about, is just the huge growth in the welding industry itself, particularly across heavy manufacturing and construction.
Okay.
We're talking big sectors here: shipbuilding, automotive, aerospace, heavy machinery. All these industries need incredibly strong, really durable welds, the materials that literally hold our world together. It's kind of a bedrock demand, you
That
know?
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And okay, speaking of new frontiers,
hmm
what about electric vehicles? How much is that shift EVs, lightweight materials? How's that shaping demand for these high-performance filler metals?
Oh, it's a huge factor, a
Huh?
really big one. The demand from automotive and transport, especially with EVs coming on strong, it's not just about more welding, it's about smarter welding.
Okay.
Yeah, because EVs, with their specific battery packs and lightweight structures, they need incredibly precise, high-performance filler metals. For strength, sure, but also safety. And then you add in advances in metal fabrication like additive manufacturing, 3D metal printing. That creates demand for very specialized filler metals, things tailored for robotic welding and these newer methods.
Right, right. And if we zoom out a bit, connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
what about foundational industries like
Yeah.
energy infrastructure? They're going through huge changes too.
Precisely. Yeah, the expansion and just the maintenance of oil and gas infrastructure, energy more broadly. Think about new pipelines, refineries, offshore rigs. They lean heavily on specialized pillar metals, things like stainless steel, low hydrogen electrodes. These are absolutely critical for getting those high integrity welds needed to operate safely under, well, pretty extreme conditions, prevent failures.
Okay. So those are the forces pushing forward. But,
Yeah.
it's never completely smooth sailing. What are the main headwinds? What's restraining even faster growth in this market?
Well, a significant challenge is definitely the fluctuation in raw material prices.
Yeah.
It's unpredictable. Metals like nickel, chromium, molybdenum, they're essential components, right? And when their prices swing wildly, it can really disrupt production costs. It throws a wrench into supply chain stability for manufacturers.
Yeah, the volatility. And beyond materials, our sources also mention regulations, strict standards. How much impact do those have?
You've definitely hit on a crucial point there. Those stringent welding codes, the qualification standards you see in critical sectors, aerospace, nuclear energy, bodies like AWS, the American Welding Society, or ISO, ASME.
Mhm.
These aren't just like bureaucratic hoops, they're vital safety measures, absolutely. But they can be incredibly costly to comply with, especially for smaller manufacturers. That's a real barrier to entry and to growth.
And it seems environmental concerns are playing a bigger part now, too. Plus, there's new competition kind of showing up.
Absolutely, yeah. There's increased regulatory oversight,
Mhm.
concerns about welding fumes, health impacts, especially from, say, flux-coated or heavy alloy filler metals. That's pushing the industry towards cleaner options. And yes, competition is heating up. Alternative joining methods, think advanced mechanical fasteners, industrial adhesives, even high-precision laser welding, they're starting to chip away at the dependency on traditional filler metals, especially in certain lightweight manufacturing areas.
Okay, so facing these headwinds, volatile costs, new environmental rules, emerging competition, how is the market adapting? Or maybe evolving? What are the key innovations really defining where it's headed?
Yeah, those challenges are significant, no doubt. But what's really interesting is how the market responds. These pressures aren't just roadblocks, they actually act as catalysts for innovation, which leads us right into the key trends shaping things now. We're seeing a real surge in alloy-specific and application-specific filler metals. These are custom-designed materials. For exotic stuff like titanium or Inconel, that superalloy known for high temp strength, these are absolutely crucial in demanding fields like aerospace, defense, and increasingly medical industries.
That kind of specialization sounds vital for the cutting edge. What other trends are changing how things get built?
Well, another notable trend is the shift towards low hydrogen and moisture-resistant electrodes. These are really important for minimizing a problem called hydrogen-induced cracking, especially in high-strength steel. It can compromise structural integrity, so preventing it is key. And, with automation becoming so widespread, the industry is moving fast towards integration with robotic welding systems that demands filler metals that work well with robots, ensuring uniform deposition, minimal spatter. You need efficiency and quality in automated production.
Makes sense. And finally, what about the welding methods themselves? Are specific processes gaining popularity?
Definitely. Yeah, the popularity of solid and flux cord wires used in MIG, that's gas metal arc welding, and FCAW, flux cord arc welding, that's really on the rise. They just offer great efficiency and adaptability across different semi-automated setups. They're becoming the go-to choices for a lot of modern production lines.
Wow. Okay. That was a quick but really insightful deep dive into the global filler metals market. It's incredibly clear that as industries evolve, as welding gets more advanced, these specialized materials are just fundamental, absolutely fundamental to how we build, well, everything around us.
Precisely, yeah. And considering all these rapid tech advancements and the growing environmental and regulatory pressures, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What new materials or maybe completely new joining techniques do you think will emerge? What's going to define that next generation of industrial connections? It's definitely a vital area to keep a very close eye on.